Are listening to Clare FM now as part of the series of gigs that are happening down in Cork in the Marquee. There's a lot of big acts coming, and none so bigger than Boston band DropKick Murphys. And I'm delighted to say I'm joined on the line now by Ken Casey from the DropKicks. Good afternoon, Ken. How are you?
Good afternoon. Good to talk to you, Stephen. How are you?
Not too bad at all. Listen, Ken, punk rock, it's still very much alive nowadays. Like, you know, a lot of us obviously of a certain vintage will remember growing up listening to the likes of the Clash and the Sex Pistols and stuff like that. But it seems to have kind of got a bit of a resurgence over the last number of years. Would you feel that as well with your live shows?
I mean, you know, we've been pretty lucky to just be in a genre of music like punk rock that's just, it's consistently supportive of its own, you know. So, like, you know, where it might have resurgence in a kind of pop culture from time to time, in terms of like how they support, you know, their own bands, it's just been phenomenal. We've really never felt a up or a down. It's just been steady for us, and you know, it's nice to have people that are so such a dedicated fan base, you know.
And I think as well what makes you popular, especially with fans obviously this side of the water as well, Ken, is the Irish connection.
Well, you know, I mean, obviously coming from a city like Boston and with the upbringing we had, Irish culture and the Irish music was very kind of prevalent in our lives. But in terms of adding it into punk rock, I mean, it fits like a glove, you know, and you know, it's kind of like two forms of music with the Irish music and the punk that can be, you know, very, you know, party music. It could also be kind of rebellious music, and that's where I think at their core, you know, the two forms of music kind of get their, you know, that's what they're about. And on top of that, you know, just to be able to add the mandolins and the banjos and the pipes and all that to what we do just allows us to have so much more melody than maybe the typical punk band.
And like the thing about it is as well, and I think you might agree with me, but for yourselves, I think you kind of came to a lot of prominence obviously after Shipping Up to Boston was featured on The Departed. Everybody obviously, you know, it was that catchy track, it was the opening song, and everybody kind of went, wow, do you know what I mean? Who are they?
Yeah. Well, sometimes I think not so much just being in a movie like that, but like how Scorsese used it, you know, in the opening track. It was very loud too. Like,
yeah.
It was like we've been in other movies where you're excited to be in the movie, and then all of a sudden the song comes on, and you're like, oh, it's in the background, you can barely hear it. But like, you know, with The Departed, how we used it, I'm kind of the pessimist in the band. I'll always try to keep things low and say, that was good. When I went to the premiere of The Departed, I was like, oh my, because we had no idea how the song was going to be used. You know, I was blown away. So yeah, it was that was very good for us. You know, it changed. It didn't change us in like big cities where we had been going already, but it was very helpful to us in like, you know, countries that we hadn't even been to, maybe, and like smaller cities that we hadn't toured a lot. You know, it opened the door for us to be able to go to those places.
Now, there's a song that I've that's really taken. As I say, I've gone through all your albums. Been listening to you for a number of years, but there's one song that really caught me, and it's Rose Tattoo off the last album. Was there a story behind that, Ken?
It was just kind of a synopsis of my life, just kind of based on like when I look at the tattoos that are on my body, right, and you think of you know, the places that you were when you got them, the era of your life, what they meant to you. So it's just kind of like a synopsis of my life, but kind of telling it through the story of the tattoos that I wear on my body, you know.
And like for you as a youngster growing up, and like other members of the band, like was it just punk that inspired you to kind of start, you know, writing and create music, or was there, you know, if so, what type of punk bands? Obviously, we know Stiff Little Fingers, who've obviously mentioned you. I spoke to Jake Burns last week, but was there other punk bands that kind of you kind of went, that's me, that's, you know, that's my area?
Well, you know, definitely bands, obviously, like you said, you know, SLF and the Clash and the Pistols and, you know, the Damned and, you know, all those late 70s bands. But and that here in Boston, when we were kids, or myself, in kind of like the early mid '80s, like Boston hardcore, like American hardcore, just like faster, harder, and louder than the original punk was what I was going to see live, and then right around that same time, the Pogues came out, and to me, I knew all those songs from my grandparents and from my neighborhood, all the traditional Irish songs, but I never thought of them as cool. I always thought of them as old people music, really, And then when the Pogues came out, it was like, oh, well, wait, suddenly this is those songs for my generation, and so it was like the Pogues on one hand, and then like really fast, hard, aggressive music like Gangrene, SSD Control, all these bands from Boston that were, getting very popular at the time. So,
and like speaking to Jake last week, obviously he was mentioning when they were growing up, it was it was the likes of Rory Gallagher as well for them. And I did ask him as well, how was it that, like, obviously now you're going to have Stiff Little Fingers as your guests in Cork, and for Jake, he was saying, wow, it's a full circle almost. We were looking at Rory Gallagher, and now we're up here playing as guests of the Dropkick Murphys. Like, what's it like sharing a stage with a band that you would have grown up with?
Oh, I mean, I have a Stiff Little Fingers tattoo on my arm. I mean, huge, huge fans, and they've toured with us in the States before, and we make no bones about like what an influence they were on us, and how much we look up to them as a band. So like, it just makes a show like this Cork show like just a huge event for us, and just a huge party. Someone sent me the poster, and I was just like, oh, it gives me chills, to see us and Stiff Little Fingers on the same bill,
What can we expect actually as well, Ken, from the Cork show? Obviously, I'm going myself now. I'm literally counting the days till we get there. Like, is it going to be old classics and new material?
Yeah, we put a pretty good set together for our March U.S. tour, where it was kind of like trying to get a little bit of every era of the band and some new stuff, so it's not like heavily on the last album. It's kind of like encompasses the whole career. And then we're about halfway through recording a new album, so we'll play some of those as well. Can we
expect the Dirty Glass to make an outing?
If you can find me a girl who sings, we'll absolutely do it. We need a female for that one, and I don't hit the high notes like I used to, so we definitely need a female.
Okay.
So if we can put the word out throughout Cork and beyond that, if there's any women that know the song and can sing it, we'll 100%. We've been known to just pull random women out of the crowd that stick their hand in the air, and sometimes that goes horribly awry. So it'd be preferable to get someone who says they can really do it beforehand.
Well, look, if you're really badly stuck, you know what I mean. I'm sure I can try and hit a few high notes for you anyway.
I'm sure you look good in the shirt.
Listen, Ken, thank you very, very much for taking the time out to talk to me. As a fan of the Dropkick Murphys myself, huge, huge thrill to actually be able to talk to you one-to-one. But listen, looking forward to the gig, and hopefully yourselves and SLF will bring the house down.
Well, thanks so much for your help and your time, and I look forward to seeing you.
Thanks very much indeed. There you have it. That's Ken Casey from the Dropkick Murphys. They're playing next week. Can't wait. Yeah, the Cork show is going to be live at the Marquee themselves, and Stiff Little Fingers sharing the stage, and it's going to be an absolutely awesome night.